Hi, my name is Yasmine Shamma. I hold an international research grant from the British Academy, the UK's voice for social sciences and the humanities. And I'm here today to show you how to make a cup of Arabic coffee. My aunt Dina is the first person who taught me how to make Arabic coffee. I remember it was when I was a teenager visiting the Middle East in the summertime, as I often did, to reconnect with my roots and see my family. And I've also had the privilege and honor of being served multiple cups of coffee by Syrian refugees who I've been interviewing in the refugee camps of Jordan in conjunction with the fieldwork that I've been carrying out supported by the British Academy. This field work is aiming to create a digital archive called Making Home Away, which showcases the ways in which Syrian refugees make themselves at home in temporary spaces of displacement. The archive will be launched in the coming months, and I've been working on it with co-investigators Dr. Susan Ilkin and Dr. Vicky Squire. I'll tell you a little bit more about the research in a minute, but for now, let me get started with the coffee and tell you what you need to make your own cups of Arabic coffee at home. I'm using this, which is the traditional vessel or tool that we use to make the coffee. It's an unfiltered coffee, so this is really the only kind of tool you need. And if you don't have one of these on hand, you can use a regular saucepan, but this is ideal. It is called a rekwi in the Lebanese dialect of Arabic, a kele in the Jordanian dialect, and a brie in Turkish. Turkish coffee and Arabic coffee are extremely similar. And then you're going to need, since I'm going to make coffee for yourself and myself, you'll use 2.5 cups of water. So when I say cup, I mean an espresso sized cup actually, because you'll need 2 of these cups. So the ratio is for each cup of coffee that you intend to make, you need 1.25 cups of water. And then your actual coffee. This is the ground Arabic coffee. The brand I'm using is Najjar. I'm using that just because it's one of the most common popular brands. And it's available in Arabic grocery stores and Middle Eastern stores. It's also available online. It's Najjar. And the one I chose has a bit of cardamom in it. That's a very popular choice. Cardamom smells so good and I couldn't resist. It's very finely ground, and that's one of its kind of main indicators, and that it smells amazing. And then sugar, because this is a sweet coffee after all, Qahwah Arabiyya, as opposed to Qahwah Sada, which is more bitter and served in smaller cups. So, and also a spoon to do a little bit of stirring and mixing. All right, I'm going to get this started and put it to boil. The act of making Arabic coffee is both long and slow, as you're waiting for the water to boil for some time, and then once it boils, it's very quick. So I'm going to tell you a little bit while we wait for it to boil, and then I recognize that I'll be distracted by the actual act of making the coffee. It's a very traditional thing to do, very common. You're served multiple cups of coffee throughout a day in the Middle East, morning, noon, and night. It's the equivalent of the British cup of tea. I was really flattered to be offered so many cups of coffee by the refugees I was interviewing. You know, I would be coming into their own personal spaces in the refugee camps and asking them quite personal questions about the ways in which they recreate senses of home in these spaces. And we'd often be sitting in a circle together on a dirt floor, and I'd be admiring the surroundings, the decorations that they had put up. I remember one refugee had made a chandelier out of solar lamps and tinfoil and put it at the top of her tent so as to give her home a sense of homeliness. I remember her son was in charge of charging up the solar lamps just before the last rays of sun went down every evening, and took great pride in that. And the same son was the one that served me this Arabic coffee on a plate and on a platter. And the answer to the invisible question then of, would you like a cup of coffee, which is asked through the serving of the coffee itself, is yes, definitely. Thank you very much. I would love that cup of coffee. I would often end up quite over-caffeinated because it is a highly caffeinated coffee, but it's also very delicious. And it's quite a sweet, intimate, kind of meditative act to drink that coffee together. So I felt very lucky to have those cups. The Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish talks about making coffee in his Memory for Forgetfulness, which he wrote from Beirut during the war in Lebanon. and he describes it as a meditative act as well. He talks about measuring the time between bullets as a way of sort of assessing whether or not it was safe to make that cup of coffee in the kitchen. He's also a bit of a coffee snob, I should say, and he says that people who like cardamom in their coffee are the newly rich. I'm not one of those, but I know why he says it, because cardamom is quite expensive. And he also talks about the dangers of over-stirring, and that you can make it taste quite stale by doing so. So I'll try not to do that, commit the coffee sins. It's coming to a boil now, so now's the quick bit. I'm going to take it off of the heat. And remember, we're making 2 cups of coffee. So I'm going to put 2 heaping spoons of the Arabic coffee in here. Heaping. And then I'm going to put 2 flat spoons of sugar. This is, I think it's my preference, but I think it's the most traditional way of making the sweet coffee too. And then you don't really have to stir it. You do a quick stir here just to make sure it dissolves, but the boiling of the water itself stirs it really. And we're bringing it to a boil, and we want the foaminess of the boil to, I'm sure those are the correct terms. It's called raghwe in Arabic. You want it to come all the way up, but not overflow, of course, and you don't want it to burn either. And as soon as it comes up, we're going to take it off the heat. And we're going to do that 2 times. I remember my Aunt Dina taught me to do it 3 times. I think it varies by person and culture and region. The most traditional or common practice is to bring it to 2 boils. So that's what I'll do with you today. Okay, so it's starting to boil, and I'm going to try really hard to show you what I mean about that foaminess. So I'm letting it come up. It's boiling. There's that foam. It's come all the way up, and then you sort of watch it go back down. Once it goes down, you put it back on the heat. And you're just going to do that one more time. And it's coming back up. And that's it. Astonishingly, that's it. So that's what I mean about the fast and slow. It's coming down now. And that's it. We take it off the heat. Now, the way you serve this coffee, let me pour it up for us. This will be your cup, and this will be mine. The way you would serve this is with the option of adding more sugar for your own personal taste of sweetness. So you would present the person with coffee and a pot of sugar, and also a cup of water, so that you could dip the spoon in afterwards and clean the sugar off of it. So I would say then the Arabic thing to say is tfaddalu, and enjoy. It's very good. It's very hot. While I'm waiting for it to cool off, I'll also tell you that the next thing we can do is have some Turkish or Arabic coffee reading. So I'm going to read the cup of our coffee when we're finished. Okay, so we've just enjoyed our Arabic coffee. I'm down to the last sip, which you may or not be able to see. And I'm just going to show you how you would read the cup now. So you're going to put the plate on top, delicately, and flip it over, also delicately. And you're going to prop it on its side like this, so that it can dry, but also retain whatever magical shape it wishes to. And this takes a couple of minutes. So I'll just say that I already set one up like a fancy cook show might on the side there. And I'm lifting it up now after a few minutes, and you see those little shapes. This is how people read their cups. You would look inside that cup and see what you could make of the shapes that you see, and tell a story about it. You know, they say that if you see a big white space like you can see there and there, that it means some sort of good fortune or good luck or new thing is coming your way. You might imagine that you see people climbing a mountain on that side there, and you would look at their faces and see if they look happy or sad. It's a really lovely practice. what it does at its very least is that it makes someone sit right next to you and lean in to the story that you're telling and maybe share their own hopes and dreams of what the cup might hold. So that's how you read the Arabic copy, and let the sort of act of making coffee last a little bit longer. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks.